After 60, belly fat is not simply a matter of appearance. The deeper fat around your organs can influence blood sugar, inflammation, and heart health. In this video, I want you to discover which ordinary kitchen foods may support a healthier waistline, what the research truly shows, and how to use them safely.
This food is being called the fastest way to melt dangerous belly fat. That sounds powerful, right? But can any single food really do that after 60? Here's what the best human evidence actually shows, and the safety detail most videos leave out. The honest answer is, honestly, more useful than the dramatic one. No single food melts fat, and any claim promising that is definitely overselling what the science can actually deliver. But there is one category of everyday kitchen food with real, repeated clinical trial evidence behind it for shrinking waistlines and reducing the fat that sits deep around your organs. Evidence strong enough that researchers themselves describe it as high certainty. That category is soluble fiber, found in ordinary foods like beans, lentils, oats, barley, chia, and ground flaxseed. It's not some exotic ingredient or an expensive supplement. Here's what you'll learn in the next few minutes. What the research actually shows about soluble fiber and belly fat. Why this matters more after 60 than at any other age. Exactly how much and what kind to eat. And who should be careful before making changes. Especially if you take certain medications. Nothing here replaces your doctor. This is information to bring into that conversation, not around it. Belly fat isn't just one thing. Just under the skin sits subcutaneous fat, the kind you can pinch. But deeper inside, wrapped around your liver, intestines, and other organs, sits visceral fat. Visceral fat is the more dangerous kind. It behaves almost like an active organ, releasing inflammatory substances into your bloodstream around the clock. That matters at every age, but, the stakes really shift after 60. As we get older, body composition tends to change even when the scale doesn't move much. Muscle mass tends to decline. Fat tends to redistribute toward the abdomen. Researchers studying this pattern describe visceral fat buildup as a hallmark of the aging process itself, not just a cosmetic side effect of getting older. Part of this shift is hormonal. Part of it is the natural change in how the body burns energy with age, and part of it is that daily activity levels often quietly decline over the decades. None of that is a personal failing or a lack of willpower. It's a well-documented pattern, and understanding it is the first step toward working with your body instead of blaming it. This is why, two people who weigh exactly the same can actually carry very different risk. Waist size tells a story that, the bathroom scale just can't. Major health organizations, including cardiology groups in the United States, now recommend measuring waist circumference alongside weight because a large waist can signal cardiovascular risk even in someone whose overall weight looks normal on paper. The general guidance is a waist above 40 inches for men and above 35 inches for women. Crossing that line is associated with a higher risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and blood sugar problems. And just to be clear, this isn't about appearance. It's about a fat depot that behaves differently in the body than fat anywhere else. Here's the detail most videos, honestly, tend to skip. Visceral fat doesn't just sit there, it's linked to insulin resistance, meaning your body has to work harder to manage blood sugar. It's linked to higher inflammation throughout the body. And newer research has connected higher visceral fat to signs of faster biological aging, independent of a person's actual birth date. Some newer studies have even connected higher visceral fat to a shorter measure of cellular aging in certain groups. This is really an active area of ongoing research rather than a settled fact, but it's a strong signal that this fat depot deserves real attention rather than dismissal. That's the mechanism worth understanding before we talk about any food at all. So, what does the human evidence actually show about soluble fiber and this stubborn kind of fat? Not laboratory evidence, not animal studies. Actual clinical trials in real people. Several systematic reviews, meaning studies that pull results from many randomized controlled trials, have looked specifically at isolated soluble fiber and body composition in adults who are overweight or living with obesity. One meta-analysis combining data from more than 1,000 participants across dozens of trials found a meaningful reduction in body weight, along with improvements in waist circumference, fasting insulin, and insulin resistance when soluble fiber was added to the diet without any calorie restriction at all. People weren't told to eat less. They simply added more soluble fiber, and their numbers moved in a healthier direction. Another review, published in a leading nutrition journal, pooled results specifically on body mass index, body weight, body fat percentage, and waist circumference. It found statistically significant reductions across all of those measures compared to a placebo. The effect on any single person is modest, not dramatic, but it's real. It's repeated across multiple independent trials, and it happens without restrictive dieting. A separate, more recent systematic review focused specifically on people with prolonged fiber intake over longer periods found a meaningful drop in body weight, along with improvements in waist circumference, fasting insulin, and insulin resistance scores. The researchers rated the certainty of this evidence as high, which is a notably strong classification in nutrition science, where high certainty findings are less common than headlines suggest. Separately, trials looking at viscous fiber types specifically found measurable improvements in blood sugar control and cholesterol markers as well, reinforcing that the benefit isn't limited to the scale. Here's why that matters mechanically. Soluble fiber absorbs water and forms a gel-like substance as it moves through your digestive tract. That slows down how quickly your stomach empties, which means you feel full longer on the same amount of food. It also ferments in your colon, feeding beneficial gut bacteria and producing compounds that appear to help regulate appetite hormones. None of that is a mystery ingredient or a metabolic hack. It's basic digestive physiology, studied for decades. Researchers have also looked at why fiber dose seems to matter less than fiber type. Trials comparing different kinds of soluble fiber found that certain forms, the kind that ferments readily in the gut without forming a thick gel, produced a more pronounced improvement in insulin resistance scores than thicker, more viscous fibers. That's a level of nuance worth knowing, but it doesn't change the practical takeaway. A variety of soluble fiber foods, not one single perfect ingredient, is what the evidence actually supports. It's important to be precise about what the evidence does not show. Soluble fiber does not selectively target visceral fat and burn it away while leaving other fat untouched. The research shows overall reductions in weight, body fat percentage, and waist circumference, which strongly suggests visceral fat is included in that improvement, since waist circumference is our best simple proxy for it. But no study has isolated soluble fiber as a standalone cure for visceral fat specifically. This is a genuine, evidence-backed piece of a bigger picture, not a miracle switch. There's also a difference worth knowing between the fiber studied in these trials and a token sprinkle on your morning cereal. Most of the meaningful trials use daily amounts in a range. Most Americans simply don't reach through habit alone, which is exactly why the practical section coming up matters so much. So what does a safe, realistic version of this look like in your own kitchen? Health authorities recommend adults aim for roughly 25 to 38 grams of total dietary fiber a day, with older adults often landing on the lower end of that range depending on individual calorie needs. Most adults in the United States currently get well under that, often closer to half of the recommended amount. You don't need a supplement aisle to get there. A half cup of cooked lentils or black beans provides around 7 to 8 grams of fiber, much of it soluble. A cup of cooked oatmeal provides close to 4 grams. Ground flaxseed, about 2 tablespoons, adds roughly 4 grams along with beneficial plant fats. Barley, chia seeds, Brussels sprouts, pears and apples with the skin on all contribute meaningfully as well. Split peas, chickpeas, and avocado are other easy, budget-friendly options worth rotating in. None of this requires special shopping trips or unfamiliar ingredients. A bowl of bean soup, a spoonful of chia stirred into yogurt, or a handful of berries alongside oatmeal all count toward the same total. The goal is variety across the week, not perfection at any single meal. The practical approach that matches the research best is steady, everyday inclusion, not a single miracle meal. Consider building one soluble fiber source into breakfast, such as oatmeal with ground flaxseed, and one into lunch or dinner, such as a half cup of beans or lentils added to a soup, salad, or side dish. That alone can move you substantially closer to the studied range without any dramatic diet overhaul. Increase your fiber gradually, over 2 to 3 weeks, rather than all at once. Going from a low-fiber diet to a high-fiber diet overnight is the single most common reason people quit, because it can cause temporary bloating, gas, or cramping. Increase slowly, and drink extra water as you do, since fiber needs fluid to do its job comfortably in your digestive tract. What result is reasonable to expect? Based on the trials, a modest, gradual reduction in weight and waist measurement over weeks to months, alongside improvements in blood sugar and cholesterol markers for many people. This is not a fast transformation. It's a slow, evidence-supported shift, and slow is exactly what tends to hold up long-term. Now for the safety details that matter most for anyone over 60, especially if you take daily medications. Fiber, particularly in supplement form like psyllium husk, can bind to certain medications in your digestive tract and reduce how much of the drug your body actually absorbs. This has been documented with thyroid medication, certain diabetes medications, and some heart medications, where even small absorption changes matter. The practical fix is timing, not avoidance. A commonly recommended approach is separating fiber supplements from medications by at least 1 to 2 hours before or 2 to 4 hours after, though the right window can vary by drug. If you take thyroid medication, blood thinners, diabetes medication, or any medication with a narrow safety margin, this is a conversation to have directly with your pharmacist or doctor before changing your fiber intake, not after. Food-based fiber, eaten as part of a normal meal, is generally a gentler and slower-moving source than concentrated supplements, but the same general caution about medication timing still applies if you're increasing your intake substantially. If you take metformin or other diabetes medications, be aware that some research has found fiber can change how these drugs are absorbed, occasionally altering blood sugar control in ways that are worth monitoring with your care team, rather than guessing about on your own. If you're on blood thinners, mention any significant dietary change at your next appointment, since shifts in diet can sometimes interact with how these medications are monitored. And if you have a known allergy to a specific legume, grain, or seed, simply choose a different fiber source from the list, rather than pushing through discomfort. There are other groups who should be careful. If you have a history of bowel obstruction, significant swallowing difficulty, certain inflammatory bowel conditions, or you've had recent abdominal surgery, it's really important to talk to your doctor before increasing fiber, since a rapid increase can occasionally worsen these specific conditions. This caution applies whether the fiber comes from food or from a supplement, and honestly, it's worth raising even if your digestion has felt fine so far, simply because these are the situations where a slow, supervised increase matters most. If you notice severe abdominal pain, vomiting, or an inability to pass gas or stool after increasing fiber, that's a signal to seek medical care promptly rather than waiting it out. One more common mistake, and it's a big one: adding fiber without adding water. Fiber actually pulls water into your digestive tract to do its job. Without enough fluid, increasing fiber can actually make constipation worse instead of better, which is honestly the opposite of what most people expect. And there's a mindset mistake too, thinking that just one fiber-rich meal can fix years of visceral fat buildup. The trials that showed real results used consistent daily intake over several weeks. This is a habit to build, not just a single dose to take before a big event. Alright, let's bring all this together into something you can actually start this week. Pick one breakfast and one other meal each day to include a soluble fiber source, like beans, lentils, oats, barley, chia, or ground flaxseed. Increase gradually over 2 to 3 weeks. And remember to drink more water as you increase your fiber. If you're on thyroid medication, blood thinners, or diabetes medication, it's a good idea to ask your pharmacist about the timing before you begin, and mention any new supplement to your doctor at your next visit. Track how you feel and track your waist measurement monthly instead of daily, since day-to-day fluctuation is totally normal and honestly not meaningful. A simple tape measure at the belly button, first thing in the morning before eating, is enough. Write the number down so you're comparing month to month, not getting caught up in daily noise that really has nothing to do with real progress. If you experience severe pain, persistent vomiting, or you're unable to pass gas or stool, stop and contact your doctor promptly. And if you're managing diabetes, heart disease, or any other chronic condition, make sure to loop your care team in before making any significant dietary change, even one that sounds as simple as adding more beans and oats to your week. So, here's the honest takeaway. No single food melts belly fat overnight, and honestly, any video promising that just isn't giving you the real picture. But soluble fiber, eaten consistently as part of real meals, has genuine repeated clinical evidence behind it for supporting healthier weight, waist circumference, and blood sugar, especially important territory after 60. This works alongside your medical care, never as a replacement for it, and never as a reason to stop or change a prescribed medication on your own. So here's a real question for the comments. Which of these foods, beans, oats, or ground flaxseed, is already part of your regular meals, and which one would be easiest for you to add this week? If you found this useful, subscribe for more practical, evidence-based health guidance built for adults over 60.